Welcome back to my channel. For nearly 18 seasons, Kody Brown sat comfortably on a couch and demanded reverence, like it was his birthright. He demanded to be served, honored, obeyed, spoken to softly, and deferred to constantly, while branding himself the unquestioned patriarch of a so-called grand family vision. He preached about leadership, unity, and sacrifice, yet somehow managed to avoid the very labor that makes a family actually function. Leadership, in Kody's mind, was not about participation.
It was about command.
He didn't build the house. He sat at the head of the table and expected it to appear around him. And then, Woolley walked into the picture. Now, new photos are circulating that are reportedly sending shockwaves through the Sister Wives fandom and, according to insiders, triggering a full-blown emotional spiral inside Kody's remaining inner circle. These aren't scandalous photos. There's no affair, no screaming match, no court filing. Instead, what we're seeing is something far more devastating to Kody Brown's ego. We're seeing Woolley, millionaire construction boss, successful businessman, unapologetically masculine man, wearing an apron,
Cooking. Cleaning.
scrubbing counters, preparing meals, taking ownership of domestic space without apology or insecurity. And the internet? It's losing its mind. The same online spaces where Kody's brand of masculinity has quietly been reinforced for years are melting down. Because this image doesn't fit their narrative. According to the philosophy Kody has increasingly echoed, real men don't cook. Real men don't clean. Real men are served. But here stands Woolley, proving, without saying a word, that real men do the dishes. Today, we're breaking down why these seemingly harmless photos are actually the ultimate insult to Kody Brown's fragile masculinity, why this moment cuts deeper than any interview or reunion episode ever could, and why Woolley's quiet competence has humiliated Kody more than any public confrontation ever has. But before we dive into the delicious details of what many fans are now calling the apron scandal, stop what you're doing for just a second. If you want to stay ahead of the curve with exclusive theories, deep psychological breakdowns, and insider-style analysis that mainstream coverage is too cautious to touch, make sure you're part of this community. Hit that like button if you believe a man cooking dinner is the ultimate green flag. And smash subscribe so you never miss what TLC won't fully explain. We peel back layers here, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's underneath. Now, let's go to the deep end of this pool. To understand why a single image of Woolley in a kitchen is reportedly causing such a catastrophic reaction in Flagstaff, we have to go back to the beginning. We have to understand Kody Brown's psychology, what can only be described as the patriarch delusion. For almost 2 decades, viewers watched a slow-motion unraveling of a man who mistook authority for effort and presence for leadership. Over time, Kody began adopting rhetoric that sounded eerily familiar, language pulled straight from the darkest corners of the online manosphere. The red pill mindset. The belief that men are kings by default and women must earn love through compliance. That obedience equals respect. That loyalty matters more than emotional safety. Think about the most infamous moments of the later seasons. That knife in the kidneys speech wasn't just theatrical rage. It was existential panic. It was the sound of a man realizing his authority was slipping, and that terrified him. Kody has openly said he wanted a patriarchal household. He demanded loyalty above love. He equated questioning him with betrayal. But here's the fatal flaw in his logic, the crack in the foundation that Woolley has now smashed wide open. Kody believed being the head of the household meant delegating labor, not participating in it. We have 18 seasons of proof. When did we ever see Kody shoulder the real domestic burden? Not symbolically, not performatively. Actually, we saw him bouncing from house to house, often creating more chaos than order. We saw him complain about schedules he didn't manage. We saw him driving around in his sports car, gloves on, posturing as busy and important, while the real work was being done by the women. Even with the children, the pattern was clear. The mothers were the caregivers, the nurturers, the disciplinarians. Kody was the fun dad, the pop-in for the glory dad. The dad who disappeared when diapers needed changing or dishes needed washing. And then there's the infamous nanny narrative. When Robin entered the family, the immediate need for paid help became a massive point of contention.
Why?
Because Kody does not view domestic labor as his responsibility. In his worldview, that work is beneath him. Women's work. For him to scrub a toilet or vacuum a floor would feel like a demotion, an admission that he isn't the king he believes himself to be. He convinced himself that high-value men don't cook. High-value men don't clean. High-value men sit at the head of the table and wait. He mocked Christine for wanting partnership. He belittled Mary for independence. He ignored Janelle's practical needs. He believed withholding effort was a way to establish dominance. He thought he was training better wives. What he was actually doing was creating a vacuum. And nature hates a vacuum. Enter David Woolley. The narrative sweeping social media right now isn't loud, but it's lethal. Insiders say Kody is furious over the public perception of David.
Why?
Because David has redefined what alpha actually looks like. Kody thinks an alpha demands silence. David proves an alpha makes breakfast. Let's talk about Chapter 2, the chef of the house. Recent stories and images show David not just tolerating the kitchen, but owning it. We're hearing reports of elaborate meals cooked for Christine and the kids. Not shortcuts. Not frozen food. We're talking steak dinners, thoughtful breakfasts, serious grilling sessions, the kind that take time, skill, and intention. But there is one dish that symbolically devastates Kody Brown more than all the rest. The nachos. Longtime fans know exactly why this matters. In one of the most infamous revelations in Sister Wives history, Kody admitted he was physically turned off by Christine eating nachos. He described her body cruelly. He used food as a tool of shame. It was demeaning, superficial, and deeply damaging. Christine internalized that humiliation for years. Now really think about the contrast here. David Woolley is not a performative tough guy. He doesn't need costumes or speeches to convince anyone he's masculine. He's physically imposing. He hunts. He builds houses with his own hands. He runs a construction empire. No one looks at David Woolley and thinks, that's a weak man. And that is exactly why the apron hits so hard. When David puts on an apron, it doesn't feminize him. It exposes how secure he is. It proves he doesn't need to cosplay dominance 24/7. He doesn't need to sit on a throne of ego or treat his wife like hired help to feel powerful. His masculinity isn't fragile, so it doesn't crack when he picks up a spatula. The contrast with Kody Brown is blinding. Kody is the man who demands a very specific type of eggs, and then complains when they aren't perfect. David is the man who wakes up early to make the eggs himself so Christine can sleep in. That one difference tells you everything you need to know about both men. And we're hearing whispers that Truly and the other kids are stunned by this new dynamic in the best possible way. They grew up in a household where their father's attention was scarce, transactional, and something you had to earn by behaving correctly. Love was conditional. Presence was inconsistent. Now they're living in a home where the father figure expresses love through service, through consistency, through showing up without being asked. There's an insider theory gaining serious traction that David has taken over most of the major holiday cooking. Just pause and imagine the psychological blow that lands on Kody Brown. The holidays were always Kody's stage. That was when he strutted, gave speeches, demanded silence for his wisdom, and positioned himself as the center of the family universe. But the actual labor, the turkeys, the mashed potatoes, the cleanup, that was always women's work. Invisible work. Uncredited work. Now picture this instead. David standing at the kitchen island, carving a turkey he cooked, while Christine relaxes with a glass of wine.
No speeches. No theatrics.
Just competence. That single image dismantles Kody's entire argument that he was essential to the family structure. Turns out the family didn't need a general barking orders. They needed a chef feeding the troops. And then there's the visual language of the photos themselves. When Kody is photographed, he's usually performing, flexing, posturing,
Scowling.
or caught mid-rant, hair wild, energy chaotic. When David is photographed in the kitchen, he looks calm, grounded, happy. and most importantly, competent. And here's a truth Kody never understood. There is nothing more attractive to a woman who raised 6 kids largely on her own than a man who knows how to handle a Santoka knife and doesn't ask where the colander is. The manosphere is scrambling to spin this. They're dissecting David's body language, insisting Christine has turned him into a beta, claiming the apron is a symbol of submission. But that narrative is collapsing in real time, because women everywhere are flooding the comments with heart eyes and fire emojis. The overwhelming consensus is clear. David Woolley is raising the bar for husbands everywhere. And every single time a woman comments, "I wish my husband did that," it's another dagger in Kody Brown's worldview. Kody believed domestic work would cost him respect. David proves the opposite. By doing the work, David has gained the admiration of millions and the fierce loyalty of Christine. Kody wanted to be worshipped like a king, but he ruled like a tyrant. David serves like a partner and is treated like a king in return. It's a paradox Kody cannot comprehend, no matter how much red pill content he consumes. Now, let's talk about power. In Kody's marriage to Christine, the kitchen was technically her domain, but it was also her prison. It was where she was expected to perform miracles on a budget while being criticized for the results. With David, the kitchen has transformed into a shared space. A place of creativity, of affection, of teamwork. It's no longer about servitude. It's about connection. There are even reports that Kody is allegedly trying to up his game in his own household with Robin, trying to prove he can be domestic too. But let's be honest. Can you imagine Kody Brown scrubbing a pot without delivering a 3-part monologue about the sacrifice he's making? The authenticity just isn't there. David doesn't cook for cameras. He doesn't cook for applause. He cooks because he's hungry and because he loves his wife. That simplicity drives Kody absolutely insane. Kody complicates everything. David simplifies it. And this chapter, The Chef of the House, isn't really about food. It's about unmet needs. Christine was starving for decades. Literally starving for affection. Emotionally starving for partnership. Kody told her her hunger was the problem.
Too needy.
Too demanding. Too much. David walked in and said, "I've got a full menu. Order whatever you want." That's why the apron photos are becoming viral memes, often placed next to images of Kody scowling alone on a porch, captioned, "What you ordered versus what you got." It's brutal. It's humiliating. And it cuts straight to the truth. Kody's masculinity is fragile because it depends on others submitting to him. David's masculinity is anti-fragile. It gets stronger the more he gives. And we haven't even touched the cleaning yet, because it's not just the cooking. If you think Kody is threatened by David's stakes, wait until you hear about the vacuum cleaner controversy. There's a whole other layer to this domestic reckoning involving drywall dust, professional-level cleaning skills, and why Robin is reportedly jealous of Christine's new life. But before we go there, sit with this image one more time. David Woolley, a man who could buy and sell Kody Brown 10 times over, standing at a stove, stirring a sauce, wearing a goofy apron, smiling at Christine. That image is the scandal. Because it proves everything Kody taught his family about gender roles was a lie. It proves you don't have to be cruel to be a leader. It proves real power isn't about being served, it's about having the strength to serve. Kody Brown is watching his entire philosophy collapse over a plate of nachos. And the worst part? He can't even yell about it, because who's going to side with the guy who refuses to cook dinner? The manosphere may be melting down, clinging to traditional values, but the rest of the world is applauding David. And that creates a massive problem for the narrative Kody wants to sell next season. He wants to be the victim of disloyal wives. But how do you sell victimhood when the new guy is doing everything you refuse to do and thriving? It makes Kody's stance look like laziness, not principle. It exposes patriarchy for what it really was in his house, a fancy word for selfishness. And then there's the money. Kody always implied that managing family resources excused him from labor. I bring home the bacon, so you cook it. That was the unspoken deal. But David brings home the whole pig and cooks it himself. He has the money and the work ethic. That destroys Kody's last bit of leverage, because now there is no argument left. And the internet has spoken. Service is sexier than abs. When Christine looks at David, she doesn't see a man who needs to be praised or propped up. She sees a man who lifts her up. And insiders say this shift is deeply psychological. Christine reportedly finds David's willingness to fetch a glass of water, fix a cabinet, carry heavy bags, or quietly handle problems infinitely more attractive than Kody's performative toughness.
Why?
Because service signals safety. When Kody commands, it signals threat. Obey me or else. When David serves, it signals security. I've got you. The manosphere is desperately trying to spin this, claiming David is subservient, insisting a real man doesn't cater to a woman's needs. But they're missing the point entirely. David isn't catering to whims. He's nurturing a partnership. Here's the distinction making the rounds in the fandom. Kody is the king who needs a castle to validate him. David is the king who makes any home a castle because he's in it. Now, let's talk about the infamous honeydew list. In Kody's world, a honeydew list was an insult, a sign of disrespect, a wife nagging. We watched scene after scene where the wives were terrified to ask Kody for basic help because they knew it would trigger a lecture about how busy and burdened he was. With David, insiders suggest something radically different. He anticipates needs before they're spoken. He doesn't wait to be asked. He sees a problem, and he solves it. This completely destroys Kody's long-running narrative. For 18 seasons, Kody told us Christine was impossible to please. Too needy. Too demanding. Nothing was ever enough. But look at her now. She seems pretty content. Turns out she wasn't hard to please at all. All it took was a man who grilled a steak and asked how her day was, without making it about himself. Christine wasn't asking for too much. She was just asking the wrong man. And now we move into the messiest part of the saga. Literally. Chapter 4. The Cleaning Conflict. If cooking is the way to a woman's heart, cleaning is the way to her soul. And this is where David Woolley is absolutely obliterating Kody Brown's ego. David comes from construction. He owns a drywall business. And anyone who's ever been near drywall knows it's one of the messiest jobs on a site. Dust everywhere. Chaos everywhere. But good contractors follow a discipline. You build, you mess up, and then you clean up. Order follows labor. Here's the insider theory gaining traction. David knows how to clean because his livelihood depends on it. Kody, on the other hand, lives in abstraction. His ventures were always vague: marketing, gun sales, precious metals. Nothing tactile. Nothing that requires wiping down a workspace. Nothing that builds discipline. And that brings us to the most iconic question in Sister Wives history. What does the nanny do? When Christine asked that, it wasn't sarcasm. It was desperation. Robin had a nanny to help with the kids and cleaning while Christine was drowning. Kody defended the nanny, defended the expense, and once again refused to step in himself because that kind of work was beneath him. Enter David Woolley. New photos and social snippets show him doing more than a token sweep. We're talking deep cleaning, pantry organization, patio sweeping. The image of a millionaire business owner pushing a vacuum cleaner is radical in the context of this show. It answers the question plainly. In the Woolley household, the husband does it. The manosphere is melting down harder over the vacuum than they ever did over the apron. To them, a man cleaning is a loss of status. But reality tells a different story. David is secure. He doesn't think a broom threatens his testosterone or his bank account. Contrast that with reports coming out of Robin's McMansion. Cluttered counters. Stacks of boxes. A sense of disarray. The hoarding theory is widely discussed for a reason. Neither Kody nor Robin wants to do the maintenance. Kody feels too important. Robin feels overwhelmed. So they live in expensive chaos. David and Christine's home, meanwhile, is being described as bright, open, and peaceful. And who helps keep it that way? The man of the house. This is the cleaning conflict, a clash of values. Kody values the appearance of status, big houses filled with stuff. David values quality of life, functional spaces filled with peace. And there's a deeper psychological message here. When a man cleans without being asked, he's saying, I value your time as much as my own. Kody never valued his wife's time. By refusing to help, he was saying, your purpose is to clean up after me. David sweeps the floor and says, our purpose is to enjoy this life together. Insiders say Kody is baffled by this. He reportedly can't understand why a man with David's money wouldn't just hire staff. To Kody, success is measured by how many people serve you. To David, success is measured by how well you take care of your own. Kody wants to be the CEO who never steps onto the factory floor. David is the owner-operator who isn't afraid to get his hands dirty. And that brings us directly into the most delicious part of the drama yet. If you think Kody Brown is furious watching this unfold, then you need to imagine how Robyn Brown feels, because this part of the story cuts even deeper. Robyn entered the family with a very specific vision in mind. She wanted the alpha protector, the man who would sit beside her on the porch, rocking peacefully, while the other wives handled the heavy lifting. She wanted status, security, the title of legal wife, the queen bee at the center of the hive. And on paper, she got exactly what she wanted. She got the legal marriage. She got the mansion. She got the man. But look closely at the man she ended up with. She didn't get a protector. She got an angry, bitter man who refuses to lift a finger around the house. We've watched Robyn grow more exhausted with every passing season. She constantly talks about how overwhelmed she is, how hard everything feels, why she needs a nanny, even as the kids grow older. And the brutal truth is this. Robyn doesn't have a partner. She has a fourth child. Now shift the camera over to Christine. Christine, the wife Robyn subtly diminished for years. Christine, the one Kody claimed he was never attracted to. Christine, the one Robyn quietly positioned herself above. What does Christine have now? She has a man wealthier than Kody, calmer than Kody, more stable than Kody, and most threatening of all, a man who cleans. Robyn has to pay a stranger to do what Christine's husband does out of love. That realization alone has to burn. This is what insiders are calling the comparison trap. For years, Robyn played a game she knew she could win. She compared herself to Mary, Janelle, and Christine, and came out on top. She was the favorite, the one Kody listened to, the one he chose. But the game has changed. She's no longer competing with other wives for Kody's scraps. She's now comparing her prize, Kody, to Christine's prize, David. And by every metric that actually matters in a happy marriage, support, labor, stability, affection, peace, David is winning. By a landslide. Insiders speculate this is causing massive tension inside the McMansion. Imagine the scene. Robyn scrolling past a photo of David cooking a gourmet meal, turning to see Kody ranting about loyalty or staring at his phone. And in that moment, the thought creeps in, why did I fight so hard for a man who won't even take out the trash? There's also the issue of help. In the manosphere rhetoric Kody consumes, having servants is a status symbol. It proves you're important, above the work. But in the reality of the Brown family, hired help has always been a source of resentment and division. It separates you from real life. David owning a construction and cleaning-related business and knowing how to clean does the opposite. He bridges the gap. He isn't above the work. And that makes him relatable. Robyn and Kody, by contrast, have become completely unrelatable. They sit in their ivory tower surrounded by boxes and precious moments figurines, while David and Christine are out there living a grounded, functional, joyful life. And then there's the angle the internet cannot stop talking about, service as foreplay. Women are flooding the comments on these viral posts saying things like, nothing is sexier than a man vacuuming. Robyn sees this. She sees the world validating Christine's new life. She sees people swooning over David's domestic competence. Meanwhile, Kody's patriarch speeches are being mocked. Robyn wanted to be part of a power couple. Instead, she's part of a couple being publicly dragged for laziness and entitlement. There's a growing rumor that Robyn isn't just jealous of Christine's husband. She's jealous of Christine's peace. A home where the husband helps is a peaceful home. A home where the husband demands is a stressful one. Robin lives inside a pressure cooker built by Kody's ego. Christine lives in a sanctuary built by David's effort. The apron, the cooking, the cleaning. These aren't chores, they're symbols of a partnership that actually works. And Robin's marriage, by comparison, is visibly dysfunctional. Let's go deeper into the psychology of Robin's envy. Robin always framed herself as the wife who understood Kody. She fed his ego. She reassured him he shouldn't have to do that kind of work. She enabled the very behavior that now makes her life miserable. She helped create a man who believes he's too important to wash dishes. Now she watches Christine, who finally refused to accept that dynamic, thrive with a man who has zero hang-ups about serving his family. It's the ultimate be careful what you wish for scenario. Robin wished for a king. She got a tyrant. Christine wished for a partner. She got a prince. And the difference is visible right there in the kitchen sink. One sink is overflowing with dirty dishes, waiting for a nanny or an obedient wife. The other is being scrubbed by a millionaire who just wants his wife to relax. This envy is fueling Kody's rage. Because if Robin is unhappy, Kody is unhappy. And if Robin starts pointing out that David does things Kody doesn't, Kody feels attacked. That's why the manosphere meltdown is so personal. It's not just happening online. It's happening inside their own house. Every time David picks up a spatula, Kody looks smaller, less impressive, more exposed. And don't forget the financial layer. Kody complains endlessly about money, about land, about expenses. Yet he spends money on hired help because he refuses to do the labor himself. David, who has far more resources, either does it himself or applies his own skills. That's a wealth mindset versus a spending mindset. Robin obsesses over assets, yet she's married to a liability. David is an asset in every sense of the word, financially, emotionally, domestically. And when you put all of this together, the servant leadership, the cleaning conflict, and Robin's envy, a clear picture emerges. The scandal is not that David Woolley is whipped or beta. The scandal is that David has exposed Kody Brown's alpha persona as a fraud. Kody wanted the glory of patriarchy without the grit. David brings the grit. He brings the dinner. He brings the cleaning supplies. And that's why the manosphere is melting down, because their entire worldview is fragile. If a real man is defined by what he refuses to do, he's weak. If a real man is defined by what he's willing to do for the people he loves, he's unstoppable. And David Woolley is unstoppable. Meanwhile, Kody Brown is still sitting on the couch, wondering where his respect went. Now we've reached the final chapter of the saga. Chapter 6, the definition of manhood. Everything we've talked about, every steak, every vacuum line, every apron photo, boils down to one question. What is a man? Kody Brown's answer was patriarchy. Obedience. Performance. Image. David Woolley's answer is competence. Reliability. Presence. A weak man fears the apron. A strong man rocks it. Kody's masculinity is so fragile, he thinks holding a spatula will crack it. David's masculinity is concrete, built through years of work, fatherhood, success, and service. Kody has to tell you he's a king. David never has to say it. And that's why Christine is glowing. For the first time in decades, she feels safe. She doesn't have to shrink to protect a man's ego. She doesn't have to tiptoe around volatility. David isn't helping Christine. He's participating in their life. And that logic, I live here too, so I contribute, breaks Kody's brain. Kody treated the home like a stage. David treats it like a sanctuary. The example this sets for the kids is seismic. They see competence. They see respect earned through action. They see a man who shows love by showing up. And the scoreboard doesn't lie. Christine has never looked happier. David is thriving. Kody and Robin look miserable. So if the alpha strategy works so well, why does Kody look so empty? The answer is simple. Women don't want tyrants. They want teammates. The sexiest words a man can say aren't, "Obey me." They're, "I got this." And every time David picks up that spatula, that vacuum, that dish scrubber, he's winning the game of life. Kody can keep his patriarchy. David will keep the woman, the peace, and the nachos. Now I want to hear from you. Go to the comments and answer this honestly. Is there anything sexier than a man who cleans the kitchen without being asked? Hit like if you think David Woolley just raised the bar for husbands everywhere. Smash subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss what we uncover next. This is the Sister Wives crew signing off. Remember, real men don't just eat the nachos. They make them.